What up, folks? Sharp Knife is back with Sly Cooper. Last time, we watched all the bonus commentaries in Tide of Terror. So now we're gonna go to Sunset Snake Eyes and look at some more of the bonus commentaries. Yeah, it's a good thing I did the Master Thief sprint on the PS5. It was tough, but worth it. Alright, so first up on the bonus commentary is a rocky start. Alright, good luck.
So the second approach of the game, this one actually was touched by a lot of people too.
Yeah, originally it was a huge junkyard that you were navigating through.
Yeah.
It was really confusing for the player to know where they needed to go and what was a wall and what wasn't, because everything was equally interesting.
Right.
As it was just piles and piles of trash.
Like some breakables, but some not. It was really sort of dissatisfying to play.
And then it sort of morphed into this mesa thing, primarily to define space that you could and could not walk on. As the player would progress in towards Mesa City, you get more of that kind of abandoned, desolate, not so much junkyard feeling, but ghost town vibe.
Definitely.
As you went from no man-made structures, and then you find a shack, and then you get to like a house, and then a building, and then multiple buildings, and then this sort of subway terminal, right? All of which are progressively denser and denser kind of urban images.
So in this level you've got stick guy, you got dog, a leash dog.
Oh yeah, there's 4 actually that I did in this one. No, there's the stick guy, there's the card thrower, there's the bulldog on the leash, and there's the jailbird dog.
What do you call you have kind of pet names for all the
I have names for him because I hate calling him stick guy and stuff. So
you don't like stick guy?
I don't like stick guy. I'd rather call him Gorgeous Lou.
Gorgeous Lou.
Gorgeous Lou is the stick guy. The card thrower is Spot Jackson. Domination, obviously. The bulldog I never had a name for. Because I think the bulldog was actually, I didn't do the bulldog. I just helped on the animation that I didn't design. But, and then Polly Shackles is the jailbird dog.
I think that's the best idol of any NPC in the game. Trying to not through his chain.
That's pretty good.
Ball and chain.
Very on theme.
Very much.
It's always cool when the NPC is showing you what he's going to be doing to you through his idol, so you get a sense what his weapon will be. So they're always very successful. Both those guys do it pretty well. Oh, this level features maybe the coolest security setup of them all, where you have that kind of checkerboard on the floor with the force sensors and the sweeping lasers. And it looks like you're a goner. There's no way in the world anyone could ever get through this. And you can totally get through it, but the thing is, because the security devices have to sense you before they become dangerous, you can practically run through the whole thing and live for it. But you'll be fine, but it looks just overwhelmingly tough. And in a lot of ways, that was our goal in the whole game, was to give the perception of crazy difficulty and make it very doable, so that you got that feeling you had done something exceptional and that Sly was a really exceptional thief.
Okay, that's all the bonus commentaries in this level. And I was right about the bulldog in the orange jumpsuit. Alright, so King of the Hill and Murray's Big Gamble and Dog Racetrack doesn't have bonus commentaries. So we can't watch either of those. So, we're gonna go to the Boneyard Casino. Alright, enjoy the commentary.
This is the only level in Mugshot's world that actually is a casino. And originally, when we had set off to make Mugshot's world, it was all going to be casino. We just sort of weren't that interested in doing a whole casino world after doing one.
So we had to find lots of stuff around it. That's why we have buildings outside of it and the rooftop on top of it.
Well, it's just more interesting going through the urban environment than it was kind of making your way through these slot machines and dodging the gangster dogs.
Kind of like real Vegas, where
It's interesting for the first time you see it, and for a little while, then after a while you kind of get numbed.
But it's based on real casinos that have a lot of water and swinging, sparking cables. Have you seen real casinos you've been to? Over in Toledo.
No, in fact, it's not. It's not. This level features a couple game mechanics that we use all over the place, but in here it's pretty pronounced, and that's when you get up on top of chandeliers and you're looking down on a guard, where the whole point is to get the drop on your opponent, jump down and smack them in the head with your cane. I think this is the first place we did it, and we use it all over the game, but there's some pretty clear examples in here. And oddly enough, even though you're many, many feet away from your opponent and you can go anywhere, whenever we see people playing, they instinctually bash people in the backs of their heads from above, so it seems to be pretty core to human behavior. Another very core Sly Cooper kind of gameplay concept is what we call M+1, and M standing for mechanic. So when you're playing the second half of this level and you're jumping on those spinning roulette wheels, you'll notice that the first set you're on, they're not dangerous at all. And that's just to teach you sort of what it's like to be on these wheels that have little partitions and they're moving. And then the second one you get to has dangerous tabs in them. So you have to kind of watch out where you're jumping. That's M+1. The +1 is the dangerous tabs. Then you get to the third set of wheels and you're at M+1+2. And the 2 is the laser beams, which you can't cross, so you need to get between the wheels fast. And then you get to the fourth set of wheels, and the wheels are going in the opposite direction. If you sit and you play this game, or the second half, and you really look at how the difficulty is ratcheted up one wheel at a time, it's crazy clear that that's how we try and increase the tension in the gameplay, but not overwhelming the player off the bat with complexity, because you're taught each little mechanic along the way.
Alright, well, that was pretty good. Alright, so let's see here. Now, Dog Track doesn't have that. Let's go to Back Alley Heist. Alright, have fun with this commentary.
This level started with just experimenting with the field of view of the camera.
Hold on. I didn't want to do that.
It's
Don't want to start the time trial.
This level started with just experimenting with the field of view of the camera. It's a lot more extreme and more kind of fisheye lens than any other level in the game. And once that was in, I was like, well, this is very much like Vertigo, you get this feeling of vertigo from being high and seeing the ground below you. So that's when I tried to make the design be like this, the sides of a building or a skyscraper as you're going up.
Yeah, we ended up
motivate them.
Yeah, we ended up doing it on the inside, kind of the hotel, sort of in a kind of an atrium or a courtyard. In theory, we invented these bouncers. This was actually the first place in the game that we used, not just the awning, but anything that would bounce Sly upwards, and really started to tune and play with that gameplay about how high should they each bounce and what's the right amount to give the player control while he's in the air. And really the combination, I think, of the unique camera angles and a huge amount of bouncing on things and jumping up and down on things really kind of defines the concept for this level. It presents some good challenges. Once it sort of took on this retro feel, kind of playing like a 2D side scroller. Our producers at Sony even kind of took us to task once or twice about how retro that felt. But the retro feel also had a big impact on the kinds of NPCs we could use in this level.
Definitely.
Because you needed an NPC that could work well in a really confined space. And in fact, the original design for the ball and chain NPC had him swinging the ball in the wrong hand for this level. We had to change him so that he would be comfortable with his right side up against walls. From a secondary standpoint, I thought that the introduction of the air conditioners was a good idea because it was this sort of skill element that required me to pay attention.
Right. It was one of the few really leftover in terms of mechanics from some early designs for the game where there are these things called break falls where you would, it was like the air conditioners where each one you hit, it would fall away. So it was very much the environment's kind of getting destroyed and your choices are getting limited as you're going. So you have to do it, pretty much do it right the first time.
Yeah, the stealth sections, these were some of the earlier sections to use the duck and to use cameras fairly heavily. I thought pretty successfully in this case. You get some different looks that you see elsewhere in the game. And the last section in the bedroom, sort of the bouncers go up through the ceilings, which was kind of a fun change. Gave us some real sense of three-dimensionality as you kind of pass through the floors. It was a fun change. And then the big finish, the precarious big finish, where you have to sneak out, out onto the sign. I don't know, all in all, a pretty successful level.
Alright, on to the next level. And that is straight to the top. Alright, have fun with this one.
I did the kind of layout design for this world using Legos. And actually, it actually turned out pretty close to what I did. I knew it was going to be a rooftop, so having being kind of constrained by the general blockiness of Legos seemed like it was fine, and it helped me get the elevations worked out, and I found it easier than doing it on paper because of all the. It's going to be done in 3D anyway. So if you're throwing it together with Legos, you can get kind of hold up to your face and look at it from all these different angles and try and imagine what shots you're going to have in it. So I think it was the only level I did with Legos, but I think it helped a lot.
Compositionally, the level was really fun to work on. It was once he had the letters done and we knew the elevation, then I went in and even from the very first shot, you'll see that nothing overlaps each other. So the level doesn't feel like extremely super full, but it doesn't feel like it's all a bunch of clutter. And dealing with the NPCs, they were really fun. We had a lot of designs and thought about different ideas that would really relate to the idea of dogs playing poker. That was the theme.
Yeah.
The main theme behind it. So you'll see like the dog throwing cards and having his idols being card tricks, and the slobbering dog, the junkyard dog, which started a whole different design with the bobbing head. It ended up being one of our most complex characters with blend shapes and really great idol of like chomping on a bone. And then at the top, or actually the lower levels, you'll see we call it Dog with Stick, which is totally a play on beefy dog sneaking around and how the idea of this big, encompassing guy being able to walk so agile with the big stick. And then also the final one, which is you see up in the top level, which is we call him Holy Shackles. And that's Jailbird, and he originally was a woman with a purse, and we found it too offensive, so we had to redesign. Like, what are we gonna do? We have to redesign with the same gameplay mechanics, and we came up with different ideas, like maybe it'd be an Elvis impersonator with a microphone, but the whole idea of the thin string was too hard for a player to see, and the microphone really wasn't that big of an object. And then luckily Travis came up with the idea that it'd be great for it to be a jailbird, him throwing his ball and chain, and it ended up being a really strong element. It's a big ball at the end and a thick chain. It's really fair for a player to jump it, and also when it's dangerous. So it should be a real win-win.
A lot of the other game design stuff that's in this world besides the sign came out of brainstorming sessions with the people who were going to, people like Suzanne and Karen and Dev, who were going to be directly involved in how this level was going to get fleshed out. So the cars with the clues on them that drop away when you come off of them, I think that was Dev's idea, and having the sign, like the big bone that crashes through the wall and everything like that. So it was one of our better, very collaborative efforts.
Definitely.
That was fun. Just gonna take out this last dog. Alright, the last level to look at the bonus commentary is 2 to Tango. So let's go ahead and watch it.
I started working on this pretty much the day after I saw the movie, and I was pretty interested in the funky rooftop scenes they had in that film and the landscape created by those rooftops. This was the first level that we made that featured the Inspector Carmelita Fox, and it was a real challenge figuring out the gameplay mode for her, because we wanted to have this cop character in the game that sort of made more concrete the fact that you were a thief and that chased you, but at the same time we didn't want to do a chase situation similar to the games where there was somebody behind you and you were running down screen.
Yeah, we wanted to have something where it didn't involve as much memorization, where it involved a fair amount of reactionary stuff rather than having to memorize the environment. Yeah, this was a particularly challenging level to get sort of cameras done correctly as well as behavior, because we had to focus on two different characters at once, and we had to deal with it from pretty strange camera angles. There's a lot of change, so this was definitely a test for doing the camera angles.
It's weird for the cameras in particular because Carmelita needs to be on screen, Sly needs to be on screen, Carmelita's shock missiles need to be on screen, as well as all the areas that Sly needs to jump to or climb on need to be on screen. So you have all these requirements, and at the same time, you don't want to have the camera bonking into like chimneys or pipes or what have you. So if you look at how all the rooftops are laid out, the tallest elements will be at the point on the roof farthest away from the area in which the camera travels, and that's totally on purpose so that you won't be occluding your vision of Carmelita or where you need to go.
Yeah, in this one it's more sort of the upper left corner of each building. So what inspired Carmelita?
Carmelita is a composite of two characters. Well, the first thing, right, is that we just wanted to have somebody saying, hey, Sly, you're a thief. Because otherwise, you're not really making off with a lot of money here. You're stealing a lot of keys and you're stealing back your thieves raccoonus from other thieves. So unless we had a law enforcer telling you explicitly, you are breaking the law, it didn't really seem like you were breaking the law, which you are. Anyhow, Carmelita is the product of really wanting to combine two characters. One is this inspector character from the Loop series, who's a detective that hounds you, and it's pretty standard, right? It's sort of like Javert and Jean Valjean. A lot of these, works of fiction that are about a criminal character have this tireless cop that hounds them all the time and their relationship. And the second character that we were pretty overtly riffing on was this federal marshal and a bank robber, and they fall in love, but they can't be in love because they're on opposite sides of the law. So Sly and Carmelita, they have that thing kind of going on where she is both his true nemesis and love interest at the same time.
That was pretty fun. I'm just gonna destroy this.
I'm gonna hunt you down, Cooper. You can't run forever.
And hearing her say that never gets old. Alright, done and done. So that's gonna do it for this episode. Tune in next time as we look at more bonus commentaries in Vicious Voodoo. Thank you all for watching. This is Sharp Knife, and I will see you all next time. Take care.